Welcome back to this important day when we're having debate. My name is Robin Kondiwa. We've just had a very sizzling first debate, a first round, but it's time that we continue. It's the National University Debate Competition, and we are on the second episode, Africa University versus Gwanda State University. I will ask the Affirmers to have student one, I beg your pardon, to introduce themselves and what program they're studying at their university.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chipo Kunyaringwe, representing Africa University.
And may we have a student two from Africa University introducing themselves and what program they're studying.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Elusi Chinyoka, representing Africa University. I'm a computer information systems student.
And now the opposers, can we have student one introduce themselves and what program they're studying?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is SAYWHAT. I come from Gwanda State University, doing metallurgical engineering.
And indeed, may we have student two from the same introducing herself and the program that she's studying.
Good day to you all. My name is Louisa Ndlovu from Gwanda State University, Part 5 Metallurgical Engineering.
Beautiful. And we get straight into the meat of the business. Their topic today is Wholesale Importation of Sexuality Education for African Youth, the Real Challenge. That topic yet again, Wholesale Importation of Sexuality Education for African Youth, the Real Challenge. We shall start with the affirmative opening speech by student one, and that shall be 3 seconds. And when my time is up, maybe commence student one, your affirmative opening speech. You may start.
Ladies and gentlemen, looking at wholesale importation of sexuality education for African youth, the real challenge. Let me simplify this for you. We are saying, where is this wholesale importation from? Obviously from the West, from other continents that are outside Africa. And who is it for African youth? And how is it imported into Africa? This is on wholesale and in bulk. Next thing we're saying, what exactly is sexuality education, ladies and gentlemen? We are saying it is education about human sex anatomy, sex reproductive system, sex reproductive health, sex intercourse, and human sexual behavior. Basically, sexuality education enables young people to protect their well-being, their health, and their dignity. And we'll move on and get into our lines of argument as the affirmative. First of all, we are saying the rate at which sexuality education is being imported in is what is paramount and important to this debate. Wholesale, it is in bulk, and why? And we're going to address that. The next thing we're going to be talking about is how there's less emphasis on HIV and AIDS, which is what we as Africans say needs to be really put a light on, which is the HIV and AIDS that is not really being looked at by Westerners, and where we are actually importing sexuality education from, and that is another paramount important. Next thing, we're actually talking about how wholesale importation of sexuality education could be a publicity stunt, and how this can actually lead to neocolonialism in the long run. Next of all, we're going to be talking about why it is paramount that African youth get their own tailor-made sexuality education. I'm going to start on the tailor-made sexuality education. We are saying that what is important and what is different about African youth is that we have culture, tradition, and belief that we have that is in our roots, ladies and gentlemen. Hence, we need tailor-made, fashionably made for us African youth so that we relate to sexuality education. You know how it can be called cultural taboo, traditional taboo, ladies and gentlemen. So we are saying, how is it we need tailor-made sexuality education is because of how we are different from the rest of the world. Next thing, we're going to talk about how this is a publicity stunt by organizations in the West, by people in the West, and how they actually try and use this in a way as neocolonialism. You know how we are colonized as Africa. This was through education, teaching you the bare minimum that you need to know so that you're below them. Don't you feel like this is the same way that they want to do it? Colonialize us again by what? By using sexuality, ladies and gentlemen. Next thing, we're saying that the rate at which is in bulk is actually bad. We're saying that this is a lot of information that is coming to African youth, and we're saying we need it at least in a pace that we feel we will understand, ladies and gentlemen. So we are simply saying, ladies and gentlemen, that we need something that is tailor-made for us African youth. We are saying there's a difference between Westerners and African youth. We're not saying that your sex is different from my sex and your organs are different from my organs. But I am saying that my culture, my tradition, my roots need to be embedded in the sexuality education that I will receive so that I understand, I relate, and so that I am able to actually get that information and use it in my own sexuality, reproductive health, and so that my well-being, my health, and my dignity is intact. Thank you.
And now we shall have the opposers cross-examination by student number 2. That shall be a minute. You may begin.
Okay, question number 1. Since most of these organizations are actually the ones funding most of the comprehensive sexuality education programs in the country, how are they colonizing us in that way?
We are saying that it's not about who is actually funding it, it's about what kind of sexuality education they're giving us. Are they tailor-making it for us African youth? Are they putting in our culture, our traditions, and our beliefs in their education?
Okay, since we bear in mind that comprehensive sexuality education is a research done first of all before they actually share it amongst us, how are they sharing information that they don't know about to us?
We're not saying they're sharing information that they don't know about to us. We're saying, are they sharing relevant information to us? And at what rate are they sharing it? We are saying that there's a problem that is paramount with the bulk importation of sexuality education.
Are you saying the research that is done by Western countries and their studies is very irrelevant and incompetent?
It's relevant to a certain extent.
Okay.
And indeed, it is time. We shall have the opposers' opening speech by student number 1. That shall be 3 minutes, and you may commence.
Okay, so then the problem we are going to have with people who are proposing this motion is whereby they don't understand the concept of wholesale importation itself. So then let's take you to the concept of wholesale importation itself. First of all, we know that there is going to be research in related matters when it comes to the SCE itself, right? And then the second step is whereby there's going to be supply of information to those people that need that assistance, those people that need that sexual education, right? So in the moment those people need that education, that means whatever is going to occur is that an order is going to be placed whereby there are certain people are going to be deployed so that they are going to be teaching these individuals. So then the whole system of wholesale importation itself of sexual education is whereby we are going to consider the process whereby there are going to be systematic reviews. In the systematic reviews, it's whereby they are going to review certain issues that they will get at their feedback. So whenever there is going to be any lesson or an education initiative that is going to be proposed, right, at the end of the day, there's going to be feedback that is going to be given. And in that feedback, that is whereby people are going to have systematic reviews and all the things that hadn't been touched upon that we as Africans want to be touched upon, that is whereby we are going to relate to them, right? So then if you are going to have sexual education and you believe that there is a certain concept, let's say gender inequality that hasn't been, gender inequality that hasn't been addressed, on the feedback forms, it's whereby we are going to tell these people that we haven't addressed so and so and so that occurs within African society. So then through that systematic review, it's whereby at the end of the day, they are going to update their system itself. Then you believe that there is going to be intervention and evaluation of the specific comprehensive sexual education processes that are going to be conducted at the end of the day. It's whereby they have done their research, since they are the ones who are giving us that sexual education. The moment they've done their research and they've given us the package, it's whereby through the feedback, they are going to review and intervene the specific comprehensive sexual education process itself at the end of the day. So then this is the time we are going to tell you that actually it's not a challenge, but then it becomes a tool for sexual related health education amplification, right? So first of all, it's whereby we are going to tell you that the comprehensive sexual education itself is going to be right-based. It's going to be right-based in the essence that they are going to consider that they are not going to be gender biased at the end of the day, and they are going to consider the rights both of women and both of men. So I mean, at the end of the day, it's not going to be a challenge because we are not going to have any problems that are gender related. The second thing is whereby it's going to reflect to the curriculum base of us Africans and us young people. So that means it's going to connect to us easier, and also it is going to be age appropriate and culturally relevant within our African culture. So then you believe this does not become any challenge because this system already has been reviewed, and after every time they've initiated a certain project, it's whereby from their feedback forms they know what to add and they know what to remove from the whole system itself, right? And then you believe that they give balanced information about sexuality issues. That is why when SAYWHAT comes, it's whereby it is going to tell you that we are going to give general introduction to HIV and AIDS and etc. But then there are certain times whereby they are going to separate the males and the females, whereby they are going to do the E.P2 initiative, so that they are going to deal with certain problems that you are saying that are not dealt with. So then you believe that this is not a challenge itself.
Time. Affirmative cross-examination. Student number 2, 1 minute.
All right, Mr. Speaker, you mentioned that there should be systematic reviews. So we want to know by who and at what cost to the relevant parties involved in African youth.
Point of correction, I didn't say there are going to be systematic reviews. I said the processes of systematic reviews. And those systematic reviews, they relate after they've initiated a certain project.
Right.
And they are going to get that information from the feedback that they get from the general people that they are
Thank you.
targeting.
Does the sexuality education include LGBT community? How does it apply to Africa?
What? Can I get the question again?
Does the sexuality education include LGBT community, and how does it apply to Africa?
When it comes to the comprehensive sexual education itself, it's whereby I told you that it's going to reflect on a curriculum base and age appropriate and culturally relevant information. So that is whereby we said in the initial process we are going to have a research. The moment you are going to conduct a research, that is whereby we are going to know that if you are going to be teaching this information, it's curriculum based and it's appropriate for that age and that culture, and it's going to have its relevancy.
And so it is time. We will have our opposers rebuttal by student number 2, which shall be 2 minutes. Let us commence.
All right. So we, as the affirmative group, we say that wholesale importation of sexuality education for African youths is the real challenge. There is a real challenge in terms of the bulk importation of this sexuality education in large quantities by Western nations such as America and other European nations and other international organizations like the United Nations for African youths. This is the real challenge. Second of all, nations like America, they don't take sexually related sexual reproductive health seriously in African culture, and they regard HIV/AIDS not as a serious issue in America, but in Africa. So we feel that this is neo-colonialist in nature. The implication being that we Africans are not responsible enough to practice safer sex and better sexual reproductive health without the aid of the United States or the United Nations. And another point, this is a publicity stunt for so-called charity African youth. The implication here being that we Africans, we are helpless charity cases, that we always require aid from the Westerners. So we are saying that also importation of sexuality education for African youths is wrong. Right? It is the real challenge. The challenge being that there's going to be, with the large rate of importation, is going to lead to information overload. A lot of information coming in through one ear and then coming out the other. So at the end of
time.
Thank you.
We have a rebuttal from student number 2. That too shall be 2 minutes. We may commence.
Ladies and gentlemen, the problem with our opponents is believing that this comprehensive sexuality education, which is given to the Africans, occurs before the actual Western countries that fund and actually bring the information just came with it. They initiate the whole thing. No, they don't. They research and look for information and know the country well before they come in and bring in the information that they feel is appropriate and will work for that community, ladies and gentlemen. And first of all, and the other thing, ladies and gentlemen, they do not just come out of nowhere. They do their research first, get their information, and decide what works and what doesn't. So they cannot say they come here and actually impose the information on us. They use the information they use from us and then make it work for us, ladies and gentlemen. So the mistake they make is they think that it all starts from the Western countries. The mistake they make is that they say the Western countries bring the information. No, the information starts from us and then they bring it to us and spread it to us who also don't know about it. They actually make sure we are sensitized to that information that we have, ladies and gentlemen. Then the existence of local groups that work with these Western countries, like SAYWHAT, and of course, like SAYWHAT, we work with black people and they're not Western people. These are locals that are actually funded by Western countries. It's not the Western people who actually come in and teach us about this information. No, they fund and let us ask people who are local actually spread the information ourselves, ladies and gentlemen. All they do is fund and make sure we give them feedback on the money they give to us. So thank you for that, Western countries, by the way. And thank you to the Swedish government right now for actually funding this very debate. Thank you for that. We're now spreading information as the students of Zimbabwe and African countries, ladies and gentlemen. With this, I thank you.
With 34 seconds to spare, they are absolutely sure they've done the job. And now we need to go into our closing remarks. Student number 1, you have 1 minute and 30 seconds.
So ladies and gentlemen, in our closing remarks, we are simply saying that the rate at which wholesale and bulk importation of sexuality education is what we are saying is the problem right now. We are not saying that sexuality education from wherever it's coming from is the problem at the moment, but we are saying the rate at which it's being imported. However, if we move on to the type of sexuality education that we are actually getting, are we saying that is it relevant to the African youth? Is it relevant to me, and is it relevant to you as an African, ladies and gentlemen? We are saying that, does the research that they're saying that they're going to be putting, are they going to be using the outputs of that research? Many a times we know that in research, people do research, they give you questionnaires and everything, but do they use it at the end of the day? That's what we're saying is a problem. And we're saying who is better to teach Africans than Africans themselves? We're saying that with our roots, with our culture, with our tradition embedded in that education, I'll be able to understand my sexuality, I'll be able to keep my well-being intact, and I'll be able to keep my dignity, ladies and gentlemen. So in summary, we are saying that sexuality education in bulk is wrong. Next thing, we are saying that we need to put emphasis on matters that are paramount and important to African youth in that sexuality education. We need to embed that in that education, and we feel that this is coming from Africa itself. And we are saying that we need tailor-made sexuality education. And even if it's going to be tailor-made in the West, we need relevant input that's going to be put into that sexuality education. With that, we rest our case.
And we shall have the affirmative, we shall have the closing remarks by student number 1. Again, 1 minute, 30 seconds. Come in.
Okay, so then what we are saying as opposition is that looking at the whole system itself, when it involves also importation of sexual education, we are going to consider that these people, first of all, it goes through a process where they do their research. And when they're doing their research, they get communication from us, we the people who need that information at the end of the day. And we are also telling you that it's going to be relevant within our African culture, because we are the ones that are going to be telling them what we want to learn. We are the ones that are going to be showing them the challenges that we are going to have in society at the end of the day. And when they come with that package, it's whereby they are going to involve that. And also we stated that when it comes to information that relates, when it comes to information itself that relates to culture, on how it's going to be based on the curriculum, we believe that it's going to be tailor-made in the instance that those people, they're the ones who are going to give us the funding, right? But then it's the groups that are locally within us, it's people from SAYWHAT that are within us, and it's people from these different initiatives that come out from us that are going to be the ones relaying that information. So that means all the problems that they state about how it is not tailor-made, about how it is going to consider, how it is not going to consider the culture of Africans, we dealt with it when we told you that it's SAYWHAT that is going to be given money and it's going to relate with us. And people from SAYWHAT, it's not like we are going to have a Tadiwa Daka who is coming from England, but then a Tadiwa Daka is going to come from your society at the end of the day. So that means he knows your culture, he knows how to relate with the Africans, and he knows the problems that we are going to face as a society at the end of the day. So then you believe that wholesale importation actually doesn't have any challenges.
And he also knows when time is up. And that has been, of course, the second debate of the day: wholesale importation of sexuality education for African youth, the real challenge. This has been robust. Thank you very much for airing your views. And after this, we shall be having the third debate coming up.